get a grip. This stupid video I just showed you. I almost stroked out and died over it. You're watching a different show. It's donkey. You ain't a captain of nothing but a sinking ship. Don't do this to me, Harry. The Ohio State. It's Ohio State. What do you mean, the? 312-988-15.
Hello?
You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. Sometimes it's good to just yell about football. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Welcome in, welcome back, folks. We're on a weird day. We're on a weird time. We're on a weird channel, let's be honest. But football is back, folks. Football is back. I'm excited to be here. We're all excited to be here. All the questions, all the wondering, all of the months, all of these shows, all of these weeks, all of these months, all of the questions. What if this? What if that? We're about to start getting our answers. And so we wanted to do this. Not sure what the crowd's going to be like. People are going to come. People are going to go. I don't care. I'm just happy football's back. So here's the deal. We're going to get through the introduction. Thanks to all the early people here. Good to see you. Jay Lehman, the nicest guy on the internet. It's good to see everybody. Brandon Fry representing in Atlanta. Patrick's here. Everybody. My brother's here. We got a Rudiger in the chat. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Football's back. Connor's back representing Florida. It is a beautiful thing. Glad to have you all. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get through the introduction. We're going to bring in some Sports Illustrated folks, maybe even have a surprise from a former Notre Dame linebacker you all may know from some of John's material here. And we're going to have fun with this. So football's back. We're all on edge. We're all excited. We're ready to go. Brandon McGrath, good to see you. Representing California. Look at this. We got people all over. I love it. We got people spread out all over the country. It's a beautiful thing. So as always, thanks for being here. You can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps John out as well. Notifications on that way you don't miss anything. Twitter, search bar Always Irish or at Always Irish Inc. Emails alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want it. You can get it if you don't want to see my face. Nobody blames you for that. Trust me. Nobody blames you for that. The call-in lines, they're popping this week. Tomorrow morning, 312-988-15. Dial it up. Tell Johnny all you heard and seen. We may even do a Friday night tailgate special. And then the big one. You know what I mean. The big one is coming. And I don't know whether it's going to be good. I don't know whether it's going to be bad. But we're going to be together all through Saturday night. Maybe into early Sunday morning. It's just a matter if we're going to be happy or miserable. I don't know. Here's the other thing. I love this Sports Illustrated Notre Dame team we got going. So feel free to Google Notre Dame Fighting Irish on Sports Illustrated. We got articles covering everything. I mean news. I mean gambling odds. I mean opinion pieces. Covering what else is happening in the landscape of college football. We got statistics for you. We got something for everybody over there. And I've really enjoyed it so far. And thanks to everybody that's been reading the pieces we've been putting out. Seems like everybody's enjoying it. We have a really, really good, hardworking crew there that I'm proud to be a part of. And don't forget, patreon.com/Always Irish. Former captain, leading tackler Mike Goolsby and myself. New features. He's going to be breaking down the All-22 film. We're going to go live on a Monday night. Let you guys have your questions with Mike. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Look at this, $20 holler from the Dome or WAP. Pleasant Thursday night surprise. There, you always catch a different crew. Whenever you do it at a different time than we're used to, there's different people that are in the mix, available. It's exciting. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here. So first things first is the brains behind a lot of the operation over at Sports Illustrated. We're going to bring in the managing editor himself. It is Nick Shepkowski here, our fearless leader. What's up, buddy?
What's going on? We finally made it. Oh, my God. All the doldrums, all of the
How many times are we stumbling through summer, stumbling through spring, trying to think of any damn thing to say? We're finally here, 48 hours from now. It's going to be nuts. 52 hours from now. Who the heck knows what kind of mood we're going to be in? But it's back, and it is the absolute best sport on earth. The team that I've grown up loving, covering the last few years as well. I couldn't be happier. We've made it. I mean, I texted my dad last night before I went to bed and said something along the lines of like, hey, well, Saturday was nice. Florida State lost, which is never going to be, something I'm upset about. But I feel safe in saying that we're finally back. If Thursday's got a nice handful of games to watch this evening, Saturday's right around the corner. We freaking made it, buddy.
Oh, man, it's finally here. And I just, Nick, it gets to me because you have all this time. We had all of winter, and then you have spring ball where you get a taste of football, but it's like it's not heavy stress, and it's like you got all of the summer lead up. And there's all of this, all these questions. And then you're like, well, don't worry about it. You have time. You have time. You have time. We're out of time. And that, like, the realness of that moment that we're going to get answers here. And the thought of that it's going to go one way or the other. There's no in between. We're either going to be so happy or we're going to be so frustrated and miserable right out of the gate. No delay. Week 1, game 1. There's no in between. It's going to be pure misery or we're off to the races. That anxiety fuels me, Nick. I love that energy. You know what I mean? You feel your stomach turning. You feel like you walk around, you're driving, your mind's on it all the time. Like, we love college football. It's back.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure you're the same way. Your shows sure as heck are the same way. When I've gotten to know you, you're the same way whenever I talk to you about Notre Dame football. But I guess the best way to describe it is one of my first jobs out of college, I used to play the video on shows in the studio at the Big Ten Network. And in 2009, Notre Dame's playing Michigan in week 2. Tate freaking Forcier scrambles around because Notre Dame couldn't stop him all day, scores a touchdown with a handful of seconds left, and in the middle of a post-game show for whatever Northwestern Ohio or whatever post-game show we're doing, we're in the middle of the control room, and I just let out a, oh, bleep, and slam a fist. And I get looked at by the whole stinking place like, what are you doing? Like, we're in the middle of a show. And afterwards, I kind of realized, like, yeah, probably a bad place to do that. Got to watch myself next time. And then one of my buddies at work there came up to me. He's like, watching a Notre Dame game with you is like a religious experience. I don't know if it's good, bad, or what, but it is intense. Like, it is like a religious experience. And, yeah, that's kind of the way my Saturdays go from the end of August through, the good Lord willing, the middle to late January this year.
Yeah. Hey, you're already getting questions. People want to know row the boat. They don't know if you're a Minnesota guy. They don't know if you row canoes in your spare time. They're already asking. We want to know what the deal is.
Or do you paddle canoes?
I don't know. Whatever.
Rowing is more this. Paddling is a canoe. I'm not a rower. No, this is just a nice sweatshirt that I was given by a buddy of mine. So yeah, it is. It does say Minnesota on the sleeves. It's all about the PJ Fleck row the boat thing is what it's based off of. I didn't have a shirt for any of the other teams playing tonight. I mean, bless me. I mean, had I had a North Dakota State shirt, I would be wearing the green and gold loud and proud today. Unfortunately, yeah. I do not, but this is the closest thing I have it's not even a rooting interest. It's just a shirt to wear because Minnesota's playing, and I wanted to be supportive of someone this evening.
There you go. And we got a regular here. Nikki Dean loves to be heard and seen. $5 holler in Connecticut with the wife for a poetry thing. By the way, she does good poetry. Gave me a book at the tailgate full of her writings. It was a beautiful thing. Gonna call you Saturday after an ND win by more than 10 to hear you say I was right for 6 months. God bless you, Nick, and I hope you're right, and feel free to dial me up with that message. Look at this, Nick. Steven Arado, another regular. 31-13. I'm calling it. Nick, dude, I cannot make sense of this line and the predictions and the variance and the people that are picking. They're leaning in on A&M, and then a lot of our people feel borderline overconfident, in my opinion, on some of the predictions from our end. I don't know if anybody knows what they're going to get in this one on either side. I don't know if anybody knows what to expect at all.
I mean, I wish I had that confidence. Forget what's going to happen. I wish I had that confidence because my stomach's already just this, like, there's this pit in my gut right now of, like, what is going to happen Saturday, and so much goes into it. I mean, if Notre Dame wins, you're talking 5 seed is the expectation then for the college football playoff. Notre Dame loses, and it's hang on for dear life in order to hoping to get a home playoff game if you can win out. Just how much goes into that part of it. Listen, I'm never going to tell anybody not to be optimistic or have their hopes. Like, what the hell do we wait around all summer for? What do we wait through April for? What do we wait through the doldrum of February when nothing's going on for? When you're tracking recruiting and maybe there's this big time quarterback that's committed and has dipping his toes in the waters of the SEC, and you're living and breathing, wondering about that part. What is all that for if by the time game day comes around or game week comes around, you're not excited for it? I'll never tell fans not to get excited about it, not to be optimistic. Now, I might say, don't be optimistic about these things. This is what scares me. But I'm all for it. Bring on the optimism. Bring on the excitement. I don't have the same confidence in Saturday night, but I'm not going to sit here and rain on your parade either. Like, this is what you are a fan for. Like, you are not a fan for you might follow recruiting. You might follow some of the off-the-field stuff. You might follow, maybe some crazy people like the NIL deals and all that. You're a fan because of what happens on Saturdays. And Saturday night it's not the biggest opener maybe that Notre Dame's had in our lifetimes, but it's on a short list of big-time ones for a program with expectations. I just posted our season predictions up on the ND on SI site. And outside of 3 teams in the country right now, I think Notre Dame can play with absolutely anyone. That I would not be surprised if Notre Dame went head-to-head against any but 3 teams in the country and could walk out with a victory.
Yeah, I talk about the bigness of the moment, and it has to do with exactly what you said of, like, it just feels like there's so much weight hanging on the outcome of this one game. The difference between inside playoff track, number 5 seed hosting a game at Notre Dame Stadium the week of Christmas is what's on the line on the plus side. And the downside is if you lose one more game out of 11, you may not even make the playoff. And if you make it, you're on the road in some nightmare game against a really good team. Like, there's such a huge variance in the practical reality of what's coming from the outcome of this game. And that practical reality isn't even including the emotional part of this and how up or down this fan base is going to be depending on this outcome. It's either going to be, hey, Freeman's made it, we feel comfortable, we're on the rise, or it's going to be, what direction is this all headed in? If you don't get this big one, like, where are we at? Where's our footing? There is a lot on the line. Look at this $20 holler from Rick. Nick. Rick is a Texas A&M fan, and he's been tuning into the morning show since we've been previewing the game, and he's been donating a ton of money, $20 hollers. He threw me a $50 holler the other day just because he likes the show. What a nice guy. Thanks for making me a closet Notre Dame fan starting week 2. Good luck. Bring it. Gig 'em Aggies. Rick, means the world to me to have somebody from the other side want to support this show and want to be a part of the group. I really, really do appreciate that sincerely. So thank you very much. Nick, I have some bullet points here. I have some questions about this game that I want to throw at you, and I'm hoping we could kind of bat them back and forth and see where we're on the same page and see if maybe there's some areas where we differ in how we're viewing this Again, it is such an interesting opening matchup. I just don't think anybody quite knows what they're going to get. Callum England, A&M fan here as well. Love the passion from you guys. Thanks a lot, man. I got to say, Nick, I'm a guy who likes football, hatred. I like being mad at people. These A&M people, everybody I've interacted with has been so nice. I haven't really run into any of them that are jerks. All of them that have been on my show have been super pleasant, and I can't really be that mad. It's bugging me.
Yeah, you want to rip the A&M fans for all the cheer gang or whatever the heck that thing's called, the yell leaders and whatnot, and all of a sudden little Johnny becomes Mr. Johnny Political, and everybody from Texas A&M is so nice because they're supporting. No, it seems like it. That's a good thing about college football. Like, I know we sit here and you rip fan bases. Oh, this was a great experience. You sit next to one jerk at a game and it ruins your whole experience with a fandom of another team. And you think, oh, those guys are all jerks. And it turns out 99.9% are great. Like, that's just the way it kind of works, I think. I think most fan bases are that way. And you have a couple that are a little more vocal from certain places. And it just kind of happens to go that way of being like, oh, wow, yeah, they were real jerks. Oh, yeah, I sat next to the 2 jerks out of 10,000 that were great.
Yeah, man, and a lot of it's online, and it distorts your opinion of a whole group when you have a faceless, nameless burner account on Twitter, and they're lighting it up. Yeah, and it's raising my blood pressure, and it's some random in their basement, just typing, but it gets me all worked up. And I need to get over that. $5 alert from Willie B. Hardigan. Personal question that I can't answer, by the way. Shout out to @Mark McDaniel, a.k.a. Willie Sr., for passing this curse on to me. I think I'm going to be sick. Nonetheless, go Irish. Ain't that the truth, man, with the way this Notre Dame fandom gets passed down generation to generation. It's a beautiful thing, but it'd be more beautiful if the people in my age range could enjoy a little something on the plus side. It would be a lot better. Look at this, Nick. From Mark with glasses here, the one and the only. Anybody remember my Peacock login? Yeah, you got to get that for the Notre Dame special, and then the old Louisville game there. So you got to get your Peacock ready, so to speak, and be ready to watch some Notre Dame football.
You need a subscription and a couple bucks for that. That's not a pill problem necessarily. That's a streaming problem for those interested.
Yeah, it's a different problem. Texas in the house. It's good to have some Texas people there. What is it cooling off yet for us? Or are we going to get that 102-degree humidity or something on game time?
For the Texas people, I guess I have a question for them.
Yeah.
Is Texas the only place that has humidity in the United States? Because I get it. We just had the heat blast that came through here that was brutal. Oh my God. 98, 100% humidity for 2 days, and it's like walking the dog around the block is hook me up to an IV to rehydrate after doing that whole thing. But it's is Texas the only place that suffers from that? What's the difference between the 95 and 100% humidity that we go through and 103 that they go through with the same humidity? It all sucks. It's gonna be hot.
It's different.
Through hot.
They all say it's different. It's like Florida heat. They all say it's different. I don't know.
But if you're not, it sucks in the summer. It's not a pleasant experience for the vast majority of it.
Yeah, I don't know. They all say it's different, man. It's like the Florida heat. They just say it's different, down south. I don't know. They just say it's different. I don't know. Is humidity not humidity?
Whatever the forecast says, it's supposed to be by nightfall. It's supposed to be 75, 78. Right? If you're Notre Dame and this heat and this humidity is supposed to be such a big deal, that's about as perfect the conditions as you can ask for, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and I'm actually glad it got hot again around Chicago and Indiana, because we were in the 70s and it was actually pretty pleasant. I didn't want our guys getting used to that being their reality every day to finish out practice. I'm kind of glad it got hot again so they could have a couple more days in that before they go to Texas and whatever. And you know what else? What's the schedule, Nick? Do you know what the schedule is? When does the team head down there to get situated? When does that happen? Are they already there? When do they leave and take off?
Well, generally that's on Friday. They'll leave. They'll usually do their practice or walkthrough at Notre Dame, take the charter over to South Bend International, hop on the plane down, fly down to Aggie Land. Sometimes they check out the opposing stadium. Sometimes they don't. Usually for the bigger games that they do. Like you'll see it on social media. You'll see some of the reports of it, or they'll swing by the stadium, walk around. So when they run out of the tunnel or they come out for warm-ups on Saturday, it's not like, oh my God, oh, look at this. It's something that they've seen before.
Yeah.
That usually happens with the bigger ones, not necessarily some of the smaller venues that they play in. And then they go back to their hotel. Usually find, I mean, in Texas, there's probably some massive high school stadiums that will do the job, but usually what you see is they'll find a different venue to kind of do their Saturday morning walkthrough in. Like I know this is just an example, but like when they go to Michigan, when they played at Michigan, traditionally they go and they stay just outside Detroit. They do their walkthrough at Ford Field and then go back to the hotel for X amount of hours. And then they just hop on over, head over to the stadium. So I don't know where they're actually doing their walkthrough for on Saturday, but I would expect something very similar to that.
Yeah. Man, hey, Freeman's been saying we're going to be ready. He's been saying we're going to be ready for this. We are going to be prepared. Like our guys are going to be ready to play. I'm holding them to that, man. You got to be ready. So Nick, that kind of leads me into a couple of these questions I want us to go back and forth on here. Here's the first thing, and I've been holding to this, and I don't know whether I am justified or if I'm this, and I want your opinion. Is it fair or unfair of me or any Notre Dame fan to have a reasonable expectation that Marcus Freeman is going to be further down the road of program stability and reliability in year 3, game 1, than Mike Elko should be in game 1, year 1? Is it fair, unfair of me to look at this and just expect Notre Dame to be further down the path of having your program put together in a comfortable way you can rely on than a guy in year 1, game 1? Is that fair of me or not?
Yes and no. To answer your question, is that a fair answer?
Well, maybe that's a good question then.
But there's two sides to it, right? Like, who has been outside of Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State? Which program has recruited as well as any other team? Okay, but throw Oregon in there too. Outside of those 4, who has recruited as well as anyone else in the country the last 4 or 5 years? Texas A&M. Yes, a lot of those guys transferred. Guess what's still there? A ton of that talent. Now you have to workshop that. It doesn't just that you walked in and you end up playing at a level that's like, all right, well, Mike Elko is here, all problems are fixed. Think about it like with Notre Dame. Notre Dame recruited the absolute daylights out of things when Charlie Weiss was there. Brian Kelly, accomplished head coach, CEO, comes in, and it wasn't like Brian Kelly had all the fixes right away. There was talent on that roster. I mean, how many of those guys were contributing in 2012 when Notre Dame played for a national championship? There were a bunch of those guys that were on the roster and getting valuable reps that year. But there was this period of sorting things out. Yeah, you go through spring ball. Yeah, you go through the summer workouts and all of that. But there was still time that it took in order to gel. I mean, that was a team that lost on Halloween weekend to Tulsa at home before it really turned the tide of that season, if you remember. Mike Elko, I get a lot of the same feeling that, like, I look at Texas A&M, and when you look at, like, the all-time, I guess, I mean, sorry, thank you for the super chat. I will appreciate that donation. But talk about the all-time underachieving programs in college football. Like, you go and you look, and you're like, Texas A&M hasn't won a national championship since like the 1910s. Whoa, that seems like a long while for a program that lives in Texas, of all places, that's as recruiting hotbed as any in the country. Like, they go into their backyard and they can pull out talent that most places, that unless you're based in Florida or based in Southern California, you have to go hundreds of miles away to find anything like it. But Texas A&M has an interesting way of operating, where I don't think that, Jimbo Fisher seemed like he was kind of on the retirement tour when he was here. Like, if Bears fans are in here, it was kind of like the John Fox thing of like, yeah, John Fox is hired. That's great. He's won a championship elsewhere, or at least an AFC championship elsewhere. He's going to be the answer for the Bears. It's like, no, that guy's just, he's kicking his feet up and he's cashing a check. That seems like kind of what Jimbo was doing once he got to A&M. Like, A&M operates differently with the boosters and the big-time money that comes in, and I think Mike Elko understands that a heck of a lot better than a couple of those coaches recently in Texas A&M. That's at least my impression from afar. So, I mean, I can't validate that necessarily. I think Texas A&M, though, is in really good hands with this program right now with Mike Elko. That's not to say it's going to be a quick fix necessarily. I think it's a benefit for Notre Dame this game's being played in week 1, as much as it's like, oh my God, you got to go to Texas, you got to deal with the heat, you got to play in a crazy environment right out of the chute when you don't even necessarily know what you have as a team. Yeah, all that might be bad. It's better this game's played in week 1 for Notre Dame than traveling down there and having to take on a Mike Elko team in week 8 or week 9 when he starts to get his fingerprints really all over this thing.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, that's going to apply next year when we open with them again. But it's in South Bend. But you're giving Elko a full year under his belt to get everything cooking and everything organized. They're going to be even though it's at our place, it's going to be a much different A&M program. I expect them to be much more put together a year from now. And so I have no doubt he's fixing the culture. Like, that was a Jimbo problem, and some of the culture and the personalities and the egos that were in the building, in the room. And I talked to a guy who covers A&M earlier in the week, and he was talking about that bad culture and the egos and power playing and the angling, and then it fractures the team and the locker room, right? All of that. I have no doubt Elko's going to solve all of that. You're going to have a healthy, strong football culture you could rely on. You're not going to have all these games being played. None of that. That's not in doubt. I just want to know, how put together is it going to be night 1? Those are separate things. Big picture, this is going to be great for A&M. How put together is that whole operation? 26 guys out of the portal, the new coming and going, and the new OC and a new DC coming in here. How put together do you expect it to be night 1? That seems to be the biggest question to me.
Look at you, you little poet, and you don't even know it. It reminds me a little bit of the 2005 opener. I know some of the younger audience isn't going to remember that necessarily, but if you remember who the 2 head coaches were in that game for Notre Dame, Charlie Weiss, he comes back to his alma mater. For Pitt, it was Dave Wanstead. Both were making their debuts as head coaches. Now, both ultimately didn't reach what they wanted to reach, but it looked like that night that Notre Dame was the team that didn't come in ranked. They were the ones that had that structure put in place a lot quicker than Pitt seemed to that night. And now you look at it, and has Marcus Freeman been perfect? Heck no. I lost against Marshall, lost against Stanford in year 1. Last year, I mean, you look at the way that Notre Dame showed up on the road. I get it. They were exhausted. They were out of gas by the second half of the Louisville game. But, I mean, had a quarterback that looked like he was a deer in headlights in that contest. He looked like an offensive line that should have been really good, just got pushed around all evening, had no chance to run the ball in that one. You look last year, and Clemson was not what Clemson has been. Clemson was able to put it all together for one night. But why was that? I mean, Notre Dame, or one afternoon, I should say, Notre Dame was so slow to start in that game. I look at that in this game, and you absolutely 100% cannot have that, because You want to take out this Texas A&M crowd. You want to make Kyle Field not that number one rated toughest place to play that NCAA college football says that it is. The last thing you can do is walk out there and have a turnover on your first possession, go 3 and out without a threat of picking up a first down on that first possession. I'm not saying you need points, but you need a sustained drive. I think back to that 2017 game in Miami where I still don't fully understand what the heck happened to Notre Dame, but they let the moment get too big for them very, very early on. If you remember, Notre Dame is moving the ball that first possession. Brandon Wimbush has a pitch and catch for a touchdown to put Notre Dame up 6-0 early. He overthrows it. Notre Dame doesn't get points. Miami goes and scores, and it ends up just being a 41-8 romp that Miami is just clearing the floor, clearing the deck with Notre Dame, with having their way all night long. I don't think that happens on Saturday night, but in order to prevent it from happening, you can't have that mental lapse early on that's just going to feed into that what is promises to be an absolutely crazy and electric environment to start. Your job is to go out there, whether Notre Dame kicks, whether Notre Dame receives. I don't think it really matters. What matters is you go and you quiet that crowd. It's on defense. You go and you force a 3 and out and you shut that thing up right away. If it's on offense, all right, maybe you don't need to go find the end zone right away, but you pick up a couple of first downs. You at least change field position. You make them have to go 85, 90 yards or so on their opening possession. Whichever it is, you have to at least take a little bit of buzz out of the air and make that less of a factor after the first possession, regardless if you kick or you receive to start things.
Nick, you led right into my next question, and I'm not being sarcastic. I genuinely don't know the answer to this. Are the circumstances surrounding this game moment, are they being accurately reflected or are they being overblown? I'm talking about the totality of all of it. The 12th man in the crowd, the Calamir, the A&M guy, saying they're expecting like 104 to 106,000 people jammed in this place.
I mean, it's going to be a sellout. What's the capacity? That's what it's going to be, right? You can't just go on Texas A&M Aggies.com and buy a ticket to this right now. Like, it's going to be a sellout.
Yeah. But I mean all of it, man. The 12th man, the heat, it's an SEC road game. Like, just, it's the first game of the year and you have all the extra intensity surrounding that. I want to know, is that all being overblown or is it accurately being described as this is just going to be, it's going to be a hornet's nest? Like, I don't know exactly what to expect. This is Notre Dame, dude. Do you remember? Oh, Nick, Notre Dame will never be able to overcome a 1993 rock and roll song at Virginia Tech. They're going to play a 93 rock and roll song, and Notre Dame they're not going to be able to play at all because Metallica's rocking out. That lasted 2 minutes, and then Notre Dame settled into the game and won the game. Like, but it was all the talk heading into it was about that moment of a 1993 hard rock song, and nobody could play through that.
93 or 91, I'm going to challenge you, Mr.
Whatever. Early 90s.
Sure, 91 when Enter Sandman came on. Get it right, John. No, I get what you're saying, though. I entirely get what you're saying with that. Is that, but remember how that Va-Tech game went in 2018 too, though. That was a neck-and-neck game until early in the second half. Notre Dame's backed up at their 2-yard line. Dexter Williams rips off the run to the left side. Deuce is up, Deuce is gone. 98-yard touchdown run. That gave Notre Dame some breathing room. And then force a fumble, Julian Love scoop and score. And Notre Dame goes and they win kind of convincingly there in the second half. But it took one of those just entirely momentum-changing plays in order to do that. I think that's what happens on Saturday night. I hope Notre Dame's the one that makes the play that does it. But I think it's going to be a neck-and-neck game sometime in the second half. And you are going to have, and hopefully it's Jeremiah Love. Hopefully it's Chris Mitchell deep or Jordan Faison juking out of 3 guys and going for a long score or setting up making a long play to set up a score. But I think it's going to be one of those that happens sometime late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, that's what decides this game, is that it's going to be close in the second half. One of the teams is going to make that play. Make sure it's you. Just make sure it's you. And that's how you go about getting this.
Yeah, it's this is going to be, it's one of those things, man. You know how they're going to pan into that stadium and it's going to be loud and it's just the whole Texas sunset thing, the beginning of the year, and it's game day. Like it's just like Christmas, man. Like this is what everybody is waiting for. Like it's such a beautiful thing. Dr. John's in the chat. Good to see you here, Dr. John. Hopefully you were able to play some good golf this morning, brother. Good to see you. Nick, let me ask you, I was just thinking about some basics here this morning. I was driving around town and I wasn't trying to overdo it, but just keep it very, very basic. My biggest confidence in this game, admitting, and we'll get to some of our worries on the roster, and we already covered the environment. I believe in Notre Dame's defense. And I just think Notre Dame's defense is going to travel, and they are going to play well and keep you in every game. And I think it should be the best unit we've seen from them under Freeman. It's year 3 of Al Golden. Like, you have a good roster there of younger guys and older veterans and a rotation that seems healthy. I feel great about that defense. That is what I'm most confident in going into this moment. Do you agree with that, or is there something else you feel better about on this team?
Well, I guess I'll challenge you and make you go a step further, because I think most people probably feel best about the defense. Why wouldn't you? That's a top 5 defensive unit in the country. You start on the defensive line. I mean, Howard Cross and Riley Mills right up the gut. That's about as good as it gets in college football. Your defensive ends, your rush guys have a little bit of proof. Jordan Botelho, tell me what kind of season Jordan Botelho has, and I'll tell you just how good Notre Dame is. I think he is the giant X factor on this team. The linebackers, all right, I don't know if they're going to necessarily have that Butt Kiss Award nominee or finalist this year, but guess what? The depth of that position across the board is significantly better than it's been in any of those years. When Manti Te'o was blowing things up, when Jalen Smith was at his highest level, when Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was hitting people with the force of a freaking freight train and forcing fumbles left and right for his 2 years where he was great. Like, that's there. You don't have that one guy, but you got 5 guys that are going to rotate that are absolute just butt kickers across that. And then you look at the secondary, and Benjamin Morrison is as good a corner as there is in college football. You don't believe me? Ask Marvin Harrison Jr., who was the 4th pick in the NFL draft last year. How did he fare the last 2 years going to head against Morrison? He had to make a catch of a lifetime in order just to secure his 20-yard catch last year against Ohio State. Otherwise, he was next to nothing in that. And then you look, Xavier Watts. Oh yeah, Xavier Watts. Yeah, the reigning defensive player of the year in college football happens to be in your secondary. Rod Hurd brings veteran experience. So does Clark. Jordan Clark from Arizona State transferring in. You look at just the way the cornerback position has been recruited, and you feel good about where you are right there. My challenge for you, I guess, is not just you feel good about the defense. You should feel good about this defense. What do you feel best about this defense?
Here's what I love. Well, I think it's for me, what I feel best about is the front and the back. All right. Like that, those linebackers have some to prove still, I think. And there's some there. They feel good about having a rotation there, but you have your one upperclassman guy that's been around the block. And then after that, you're kind of waiting to see how things go. If they're really able, they're talking about like a 10, 11, 12 man rotation up front. If that is real and they feel like they're going to be able to do that without losing productivity in this game, in this heat and the intensity of all that, that is a big, big deal. If you could genuinely have that healthy of a rotation, you feel good about up front without losing productivity or feeling real vulnerable. That is a big benefit. And on the flip side, on the back end, Christian Gray. I'm telling you, You got Watts, and you're like in your head about him, and then you have Morrison, and I just feel like those two are getting all that attention. You want to stay away from Morrison or whatever. This is going to be Christian Gray's year to bounce out and become a household Notre Dame name. He is long, he is strong, he's looking to get the friction on, baby, in the back of this defense. I'm telling you, that dude's got those long arms. You're going to want to avoid Morrison, and you're going to think we're going to test somebody else. How about not so fast, my friend? Christian Gray is going to be my pick of a bust-out guy this year. And there's a lot to like. Now, Nick, all it takes, though, and you saw some of this against, almost in all the games last year, we ended up losing. All it takes is one little over pursuit by a linebacker, one bad angle, one bad juke, and you're allowing a big-time play. And we saw that in the run game against Notre Dame. And all 3 games we lost, there was at least one big run where we were out of position. One guy made a bad step, and it burned us. But overall, this is the deepest Notre Dame defense we've had in a long, long time.
No doubt about it. I don't think that's even debatable. When in our lifetimes, I'm too young to count the late 80s, early 90s. So early 90s and when I started being a fan of Notre Dame. So I'm really too young to really understand what I was watching when Bobby Howard and Jeff Burris and some of the great secondary play that there was Todd Light. I was too young for to appreciate or understand. In my Notre Dame viewing lifetime, there's been star secondary guys. Hey, you look at it, Kyle Hamilton, Harrison Smith has gone on to what I think is an NFL Hall of Fame career. There's been guys. Alohi Gilman a couple of years ago, he just signed a huge contract extension with the Chargers. There's serviceable, good defensive backs. Julian Love. You haven't had a complete secondary like this. Not even close. Across the board, you haven't had a secondary like this. In quite some time, at least in my Notre Dame viewing lifetime or understanding at least lifetime, there hasn't been this. The defensive line, I think, that sets your tone for everything. And that's what so much of the conversation, and I get it. Notre Dame's offensive line has 6 combined starts. Yeah, not ideal to be going against Texas A&M's defensive front that is arguably, it's right there on the short list of best in college football. But it's I guess that's the natural tendency when you follow a team, when you're a fan of the team, it's naturally to go to your worry, right? So when you look at Notre Dame and on the first day or second day of practice, Charles Jagasaw goes down with the injury and it's oh my God, the left tackle's out for the year. What in the bloody heck are we going to do? Look at the other side of this though. Texas A&M is not they're bringing back this all-star, all ACC or all SEC caliber offensive line. It had a lot of issues last year. And what does it go against? Oh, one of the best defensive fronts there is in college football. Oh, a deeper set of linebackers than Notre Dame has had in quite some time. Oh, and they get by that, then there's this secondary that's arguably the best in the country, or at least on that short list of being the best in the country. It's points are going to be real stinking hard to come by in this one. Going to be really hard to come by in this one. The only thing that makes me think that this game doesn't fly that under that 46.5 is the fact that so much money has come in on it to go under that it's gone from being 49.5 to 46.5. And usually the casinos in Vegas and the casinos nationwide don't get smaller, they get bigger. And that's because they're taking our money. That's the only thing that tells me that maybe this game goes over that point total, because it just screams of just a rock fight in order to get to 20 and whoever gets there first wins.
Yeah, and that makes you think of extras. Is there a big turnover that flips field position or a score on a turnover, something like that? Is there a special teams play early? Something stupid happens. That's the other thing, Nick. I always talk about this. Week 1 variance. Weird things happen in week 1 games. That's why people say they're hard to pick and gamble on, because you don't know exactly what you're dealing with yet. Your communication may be off. Your timing may be off. You know, there's always some goofy stuff that seems to happen in week 1 games that won't happen 5-6 weeks down the road. You got to make sure who's got a tighter operation. If there's going to be any goofy stuff that happens, you better make sure it isn't on your side as far as a miscommunication or bad timing and something catastrophic happens. That's all it takes to maybe lose a game like this, where there's 2 defenses we suspect are going to be really, really physical and really good. And then with that secondary stuff, I'm with you, Nick. You could name all those names recently, but a lot of them didn't have a lot of support. It would be like 1 or 2 good guys, but you couldn't feel the whole secondary you liked back there. And now it feels like it's about as well-rounded as you could have on all levels. And we're gonna see how it goes. So I asked you about your biggest confidence. We're going to have to cover our biggest concern as well after we do Dr. John here. Did you see? It said, John and Nick, I've been trying to keep up with you guys on the SI site, but you guys write faster than I can read. I appreciate you trying to keep up. And wait, there's a lot of news. We've been putting out a lot of material here, Doc.
Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you have a couple people that are passionate about what they get to write about and get to cover and discuss. I won't make any apologies, but I appreciate you going to the site. I guess all I can say is hit refresh and, you know, stop being a doctor and stop doing your, what did he say? 13 miles or 15-mile bike ride that he said in the chat. Like, yeah, maybe go 10 next time and read 2 more of our articles. Nice.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, where's your priorities, Dr. John? I mean, get a beer in your hand and read the articles. Get off that bike. All right, let's just get this out of the way, Nick. The offensive line is dominating the narrative in the second half of Notre Dame's camp. It's very interesting. The first half of camp was, to me, the big story was, is this wide receiver group going to be way better than we thought? I feel like the first week and a half of camp, most of that news was about those wide receivers looking better, having a healthier real world rotation of bodies, people that are alive, that could actually catch the ball. That was the talk. Then you add the injury to Charles Jagasaw. That has been the big narrative ever since then, is what's going to happen with the left side of the line. They tried something and they don't feel like they liked it, and that applies to guard too. Didn't even have an injury there, and you got a youngster playing over 2 guys with a lot of experience. The offensive line is my number 1 concern, and even if everybody was healthy, it would have been my number 1 concern. It's just that to a higher extent now. That's clear to me. Do you feel the same way?
I mean, I think it has to be. I mean, if I was going to tell you it was something else, then I would just be doing the ESPN first take thing, and I'd be making something up just to argue with you. Yeah. Trust me, we'll find things that we don't agree on. We're not going to force it either when we do these, hopefully during the week, throughout the football season. No, it has to be. It absolutely has to be the biggest concern. It's not just that it is a concern. It's what you're going against in this particular matchup. Texas A&M, it's not like they have one guy that necessarily runs their defensive line. I think that gets lost in it a bit. I think they've recruited defensive ends particularly well. They're big up the middle. They're big up front. It happens to be, there's reason for concern specifically in this matchup. We can look at it for this matchup, and we can look at it for the season as well. I think it's 2 different conversations, because it's alarming going into Saturday night, going against what you have to go against. But for the overall picture of 2024, if we're talking 15 years ago, or heck, we're talking 12 years ago when there's no college football playoff, this is an elimination game. It's not an elimination game now. Now it's an elimination game from, you go 11-1. Do you get a home game? It depends. You're laying a lot on what happens elsewhere in college football in order to get a home game at Notre Dame Stadium. If you're trying to get the number 5 or number 6 seeds, and will most likely play the ACC or Big 12 champion in round 2, that goes a long way in that. If you're simply just trying to earn a berth in the college football playoff and you don't care about having to go to Texas or Ole Miss or Oregon or Ohio State or wherever the heck your first round matchup might be, it's not make or break in that case. And when you look at Notre Dame's schedule this year, all right, you get the toughest test in terms of opposing defensive lines in week 1, but then what do you get? You get Northern Illinois to get right. You get Purdue, which, okay, it's Purdue, and they're going to treat it like their freaking Super Bowl because that's what they do.
Yep.
But it's still Purdue. They're going to be competing for that number 18 spot in the conference that calls itself the Big Ten. So that tells you everything you need to know about their outlook for this year. Then you get Miami of Ohio. Then you have another test in Louisville. You got another month to get right, get things sorted out, get experience. I mean, you go into this game with 6 career starts between your offensive line. Guess what? I mean, you're going to have 11 by week 2. You're going to have 16 by week 3. By the time that you get to that Louisville game, all of a sudden that 16 turns into a 26, and you're thinking, all right, well, you should see progression that comes with that. You should see improvement that comes with that. Then it's another, okay, Georgia Tech looks like it's going to be a tougher out than it first looked like in the middle of October. But really, that next huge test against what looks like a real good defensive line comes against Florida State. And that didn't look like a good defensive line against Georgia Tech. And then USC is not necessarily strong on the line, but that's a game that scares you. But it's set up with these gaps of it's kind of the get-right gaps. And you should see that. So if you're looking at the 12-game schedule, I feel a heck of a lot better about things than if we do just focus on this one night coming up on Saturday night.
Yeah. And see, that's the whole thing. You're looking at the rest of that schedule where your big game moments seem to be spaced out, and there's all those reasonable kind of breathing room games where you feel like you don't have to be perfect to win them. But that's why this moment's such a big flashpoint. It's like, if you could just scrape and claw your way to any win here, man, things really open up for you. And you're going to feel like that line's just going to keep getting better as they develop and they play together longer. They're going to be way better in the second half of the season than now. The big picture is a couple years down the road. This line's going to be absolutely fantastic because they have all this youth playing now. And you're going to add Gerby Lambert to that. You're going to have Jagasaw coming back healthy. Will Black's going to get in the mix. Like, you are going to have this line's going to be really, really good, but it's going to take a couple years. You don't have a couple years. You got to be good enough to win this week. And Joshua says, Pendleton's starting because he's a better player than the 2 guys who started the games last year. How is that bad? The lack of experience is going to scare you because the history just tells you for O-line play, lack of experience is usually a bad thing. And then the only other, like we just said, it's a good thing long-term, no doubt. The other part of it would be you could be better than the guys that are there and still not be what I need. Does that make sense? You could be better than both those guys and still not be able to block Texas A&M's guys, and then I'm not happy with anything. So I don't know, man. And here's where this leads me next, Nick. Mike Denbrock. And here's where I'm at.
Well, can I jump in one thing with the offensive line before we get, because I think Denbrock's going to take up a good amount of time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Keep the questions coming in the chat too. There's some good ones and good comments in there. But to ask you, I guess, a question about the offensive line, to take it a step further. Okay, yeah, best man plays, best player plays, open competition. That's great. I think that's what should be at all. Every 22 starting spots should be that way. And that's Sam Pendleton starts because he's better than what's projected to be for Rocco Spindler. But what do we know about Joe Rudolph so far? Offensive line coach. What are the early returns? Blake Fisher turned into a second-round draft pick, but I feel like that's almost on size and potential, not on necessarily what he did at right tackle last year. Joe Alt was a freak before Joe Rudolph got here. Joe Alt went into last year being widely regarded as the runaway best left tackle in college football, and he played it that way. What do we know so far about the development of Joe Rudolph? Okay, best guy plays. That's great. Open competition. Where have we necessarily seen that pay off so far? And I think that it's what you see from this offensive line is going to tell you a heck of a lot. By the time we get to week 8, week 10, it's going to tell you a lot about Joe Rudolph as a coach and what you have as a positions coach in terms of a developer. And that's going to tell you a lot of answers or what to expect going forward from the offensive line position.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, though. I do want to say this, and I was talking to Goolsby about this earlier in the week. I give a lot of credit to Notre Dame's offensive staff, whoever's involved in the decision. It would be really easy to default to experience on the left side of that line and go, we're going to default to the experience, and if we need to make a change because we just can't block anything up at all, we'll go down that path if we need to. But everybody's going to understand that you default to the most starts within the building in these roles, and that's just the natural way to do it. I give them a lot of credit. It takes courage to not do that and bring these guys in and say, they're playing best in practice, we're putting them in, and we're rolling with it. I give them a lot of credit for doing that.
Yes. Your chat's hilarious, by the way. It's just, if you follow your chat during the show, how can you not help but laugh at some of this stuff? Like, shout out to Mark with glasses. Like, exactly. That's the one that I was looking at. Like,
yep. Yeah.
I know I'm not here to try to do that to you, but if I have to experience the anxiety of what is a Notre Dame football Saturday, then damn it, you have to too. But no, you look at this part and I can't help but look at it and just kind of I'm willing to give the benefit of doubt to Joe Rudolph. Like, you don't work at Wisconsin, how they were built, how they've traditionally been built for as long as he did without having success. You don't end up making it to Notre Dame in this position without some success. Now, his returns at Virginia Tech, it was only a year, so what the heck are you supposed to know? That part, I guess, is I don't know. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, but this is going to be a critical year in terms of how you actually see this, of what does Anthony Knapp look like by mid-year? What does he look like, heck, by the Louisville game?
Yeah.
What does some of this look like by then? And by the time the USC game comes around, are you being able to push around? Because I think USC this is a great example for way down the road. We got to get through Texas A&M. We got to get through Northern Illinois. We got to get through a heck of a lot of things before we get there. But when you get to that USC game, right now they're sitting there in LA, all 12 of their fans that are paying attention right now, and they're saying, God, our defensive line sucks. Oh, my goodness. Everybody ran at will. Anyone that had half of an offensive line last year ran at will against us. And we hired a new defensive coordinator, and we need to develop this defensive line. Roger Dodger, you're one of the 12. But what is it going to look like when these two teams meet at the end of November? Who is going to have developed their worry, their big concern better? Like, is it going to be Notre Dame offensive line U? Is it going to look like an offensive line you should when you're developing players? Or when you get to that game, is Notre Dame's offensive line still getting pushed around by a USC defensive line that goes into this year with questions? That's a long damn way down the road. We got a long way to go to get there. Yeah. But that's just kind of something to keep an eye on, that lighthouse way down at the end of the season.
And you know what else?
Evaluating kind of this staff and these units going forward.
I don't want to get too far down this road, but the other thing I'm evaluating for USC is I think there's a good chance they have 3 or 4 losses by the time we go there to end the year at the Coliseum. Welcome to life into Big Ten, and I got to give them credit. The non-conference schedule, you got Notre Dame and my family, Brian Kelly, too. That's a pretty heavy-duty you got a Big Ten schedule, and then your non-conference is Notre Dame and LSU. That's pretty good.
I mean, can we be real for a second? Whoa. Like USC, I know it's like the Notre Dame thing. You hate USC. USC hates Notre Dame. They hate UCLA. That's what rivalries are supposed to be. But can we give like a tip of the cap to USC for a second? There's two programs in major college football that have never played an FCS opponent. They're both based in Los Angeles. UCLA, USC are the only two.
Yep.
You look at USC's scheduling traditionally, and yeah, the Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12 has gone up and down.
By the way, Nick,
but what does they always do?
It bothered me when we gave that up. It bothered me when we gave up. We used to be on that list too until not long ago, and I was very upset that we gave up. We used to at least be on that list with them, and it pisses me off that we gave it up. I digress. You were on a roll. My bad.
But you look at it, and it's USC. Yeah, they play Notre Dame out of conference every year. But then there's Alabama on there. There's been Auburn on there in the last 20 years. There's been Texas a home and home with. That's what ticks me off about when I make fun of Lincoln Riley. And there was a thing that I forget, CBS or Big Ten Network or some outlet put out there today. And it said, or it was the Big Ten coaches guessing who would win in a 40-yard dash. And my answer for you, who would win in a 40-yard dash? If there's competition coming, if there's somebody competitive coming down that way from me, it's Lincoln Riley. He runs from it faster than anyone. You can't wait to tell you he doesn't want to play LSU. He can't wait to go in front of the media at Big Ten Media Days and say, oh, if it's going to affect our national championship odds, we can't play Notre Dame. He goes and he runs from playing Lane Kiffin in a home-and-home series. He runs from Oklahoma to the Pac-12 to go play or to go coach at USC. Like, that guy does not want any part of this whatsoever. Does not want any of it. And it is so anti what USC has been built on forever with that program. And it's like, okay, the administration at USC gets it. They understand how their program was built, how it was founded, and why it became such a national brand. Lincoln Riley clearly does not understand that. And it's like, okay, I'm glad that the common sense at USC took over there and kind of quieted down the Notre Dame comments of that rivalry going away potentially.
Yeah, it's man, and it's just going to be interesting to see the position they're in by the time we get there Thanksgiving weekend. I wanted to circle back to the Denbrock point, Nick. Let me ask this. I don't want to back myself into a corner here and be disappointed. Nolan Gentry says, "What's up, John? Love you, brother." Hey, Nolan, good to have you here. Hope to see you at the next tailgate, buddy. Miami, Ohio. Hope to see you there again. Got an ice cold Miller Lite for breakfast for you with your name on it.
Hey, don't give away products for free. Wait till Miller Lite's a sponsor to toss that name out there.
That's a good point.
Got a cold, cool beverage for you waiting on a Saturday morning in South Bend.
Write-offs. Those are business expense write-offs. All that breakfast here.
All that breakfast later on.
Nick, I don't want this to turn into, we got Mike Denbrock here, and he did a lot of exciting things at LSU and won the Heisman, and they had the #1 scoring offense in America, and it's his third go-around at Notre Dame, and he's seen it all and done it all, and he's going to come in here, and he's going to figure it all out, solve that offensive line problem, and have Notre Dame's offense going up and down the field. Are we putting too much confidence in Mike Denbrock to be a savior here and figure out that whole offensive line problem? No. That's a mistake. I don't want to be that guy that's like, we got Denbrock, he's going to figure it all out. And then we're in a bad spot. What are the realities of what having Denbrock in here does for this offense? Jeff, good to see you here. And I want to see you at the tailgate too, buddy, and the golf course. Go ahead, Nick.
No, it's not an unfair expectation. What did Mike Denbrock get paid to make the jump? I know that he loves Notre Dame, and there's a reason he's here for a third time, and he grew up.
2.1 mil, baby. 2.1 mil. Woo!
He got paid as well as any damn offensive coordinator there is in college football. So I don't want to hear it with he's backed into a corner with this offensive line. Oh, make an excuse for this, make an excuse for that. I'm always build your teams up front. I know we sit and make fun of him. If I'm building an NFL team, if I'm building a college football team, I very much go about it the exact way that Jim Harbaugh traditionally has. Well, he's at Stanford, had great success, when he was with the 49ers and had great success, when he was at Michigan, love it, hate it. He won a stinking national championship last year and had clear success. And what did he do with the first pick, or his first round pick with the Chargers this year? Goes and gets the absolute lockdown best left tackle in the draft in Joe Alt. I build my teams on the line. I get that. But I will say this. It's not that it's not important to have a great offensive line. You're giving me the option. Yeah, I'm signing up for that every day of the week. But with how horizontal you can get and how much of the game is, it's not just you have to power people up the middle. And you can get swing routes where a passing game essentially has become like a running game because you're throwing passes that are probably a 95% probability of being completed, and getting your running backs in space, or getting little screens to your playmakers, or scheming things to get open without having to throw the ball very far down the field, and that let guys go and make plays with their feet. Now, Notre Dame doesn't have like this just slew of playmakers all over the field offensively, but even with Audric Estime off the Denver Broncos, I think it's improved from last year. You have a year experience for Jordan Faison. You have veteran receivers, and I know that it's okay. Well, they're in the transfer portal. They're graduate receivers for a reason because they're not going to the NFL. I get that, but that doesn't mean they can't be better than last year. That doesn't mean they can't be a significant improvement still from what you trotted out there the last couple of years. Like, yeah, you're not going to throw out like what LSU or Washington had with receivers a year ago. Okay. You don't necessarily have to. And yeah, in order to get to the national championship level, you got to be top 5, top 7 in just about every unit that you have. And Notre Dame's not going to be there this year. But like, you're improved in other places. You lose Estime, but you got maybe different kinds of playmakers that you can get the ball in the hands of different ways this year. You might not have as good a passer in Sam Hartman at quarterback with Riley Leonard this year, but guess what? You get a guy that you have to scheme an entire defense for. Notre Dame saw it up close and personal last year. Like, you saw it up close and personal with some of the runs that Riley Leonard had that extended drives and just made things a pain in the rear end for Notre Dame last year in that Duke game. You have that on your side right now. Like, you have that. I don't want to hear excuses from Mike Denbrock. From seeing the video and things of the way he's interacted in practice and everything, that's exciting for me to watch, and I can't wait to see how that develops. But I'm also not going to sit here and be like, yep, Mike Denbrock, you get excuse 1, excuse 2, excuse 3, and excuses all over. Like, you were brought here to produce too. Yeah. Pressure's on you from day one.
Here's the other thing about this too. The other thing is, I would be looking at this differently if we were in the season a couple weeks, then you had like horrible offensive line injuries and you only had like 2 days of practice to figure out what you're going to do next. And then you have to get ready to do a walkthrough and go play another game. The nightmare kind of happened early enough. You have had almost a month to be able to come to terms with your reality here and know you're working at a clear disadvantage where there's no way around it. You know you're working at a disadvantage. To be able to plan for, here's what we want to try and do. And if we can't, here's plan B, here's plan C, here's what we're going to do. Like, and he has the experience. So I feel like that's a part of the equation too, is you've had a few weeks now to be able to gauge this and come up with different things you could go down if you need to, depending on how this line holds up or doesn't hold up. And I just don't want to get trapped in this. Oh, Denbrock's here. It'll all, forget that offensive line problem, that old left side. Like, it'll all be fine. And so I don't know what we're going to get. But you pay a guy like this, with this experience, that amount of money to figure out how to make the offense do something, even in unfortunate circumstances. Now, Nick, that being said, I've been asking myself this and everybody else. What do you think Denbrock's opening approach is going to be on offense? Is he going to try and run it up the middle on them and establish that right away and see what we do? Is he going to try and spread them out, make them worry about the whole field? Is he going to try and get Riley Leonard on the move and put that in their head right away? There's a bunch of different ways he could do it. Do you have any inclination on which way he may want to start this game for Notre Dame?
Well, I mean, I think what you do initially, what you're going to see him do is a lot of motion from your slot guys and either be faking handoffs to them, maybe some trickery to like a direct snap or something, but something in the end around fashion that tries to get the defensive ends to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's his number one concern. He wants to neutralize that as best as possible, as early as possible. So that's what I think he does quickly. Now, what does he do as the game goes on? Well, tries to take advantage of that, hopefully, defensive ends not being able to come at 200 miles per hour off the edge. Now, how do you do that? I don't look at it as being a team that's going to be able to just dominate the ball up the middle. As much as like that's what we're so used to see at Notre Dame, have to be the bread and butter because you lack playmakers on the outside. But I think it's going to be a lot of that short passing game to Jeremiah Love. I think Jordan Faison's going to have a huge game in this one. I think he's going to be an absolute. If he ends up with some kind of game where it's like 4 receptions for 48 yards and no scores, like Notre Dame's in a lot of trouble. I think you're going to get the ball in his hands a lot. Let him create a lot. I'm also bigger on Jordan Faison than a lot of people are. I know that it's not a name that gets thrown away here lightly, like at Notre Dame, and I'm not saying he's going to go to the height of this guy, but every time he has the ball in his hands, his shift ability, his ability to just, whether it's make plays, make guys miss, make guys uncomfortable. You'll probably laugh at me when I say it. I think I've told you before. He reminds me of Golden Tate when the ball's in his hand. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a freakish athlete. His ability to stop, restart, change direction. I think he is going to be an absolute huge part of this, and I think that it's earlier rather than later that he gets involved in this offense if Notre Dame's going to have any success.
Here is another part of that. I love that, and I want to double down on a piece of it. There is no amount of touches, either in anything in the run game or in the shorter intermediate pass game. There is no amount of times the ball is attempted to go to Jeremiah Love in this game where I'm going to say it's one too many. Nick, that number does not exist. He is a guy where anytime he touches it, there's a possibility of a touchdown being put on the board. And we're talking about a game here between two really good defenses where scoring is going to be at a premium. I don't care what you want to scheme up, wheel routes, slip screens, do regular handoffs. I don't care what you want to do. Getting the ball in his hands any different way possible, I'm all for it, and I think he's going to be a big part of this, whatever they do as well.
Yeah, I guess what I just trying to like play the X's and O's game in my head as you're saying that is, okay, so you go to Love a lot. You find him in the flat. You hand the ball off to him. You try to get him. I mean, if you can get some semblance of a hole up the middle, like that's a guy that I know, like you think of the speed and you think of getting outside, but God, if you can just get him the ball with some kind of opening up the middle, then oh my God, look out. Because then you take a line of linebacker one-on-one, really like my chances of him be able to make a small gain into a significant gain in that opportunity. I obviously get the ball in your playmaker's hands. I like it, but then playing off of that all right, so then when Texas A&M really starts keying on them, not to think that they won't to start the game, but when they really start saying, okay, this is the guy that's killing us, then what does that open up? Where are you able to exploit this secondary that seems like it's got some significant issues, returns a lot of guys from last year that had some significant issues. So where are you able to exploit that then if it is Love that you kind of go to early on, which I fully expect them to do as well?
Telling you this right now, you brought up some threats, in the wide receiving room for Notre Dame. We talked about those running backs. I'm telling you, Eli Raridon and Mitch Evans, dude, if there is any room over the middle or up the seam or wherever in the red zone to work on because you're keying on these other guys, those dudes are true weapons. Their physical traits are just above average. In the red zone, those are major threats. In any, first down situation to go, they're major. 3rd and 8, whatever. Mitch Evans was the guy. You went to him almost every 3rd and long last year. It felt like those tight ends should be major weapons in this ball game.
Yeah, no, I mean that's also a strength of this. Now, what I think is interesting when you've looked at Mike Denbrock's offenses, God, that's easy for me to say, rolls off the tongue. Not traditionally a guy that likes to load up on the tight ends necessarily. Like you see his success at LSU, you see his success statistically at Cincinnati, and that doesn't come with a lot of multiple tight end looks. And so I'm interested to see where does he use what's worked for him traditionally versus what is necessarily a strength on Notre Dame's roster in terms of perceived talent. So I'm very curious to see how that kind of works out. I mean, we've heard a lot about, if you watch the NBC or the Peacock show, if you watch the first couple episodes today that came out, Denbrock, I won't spoil anything in there for you, but what he says in there is a little bit about of like, I guess it's not necessarily him that says it. It's the quarterback's coach, Gino Dooley, that says it. But it's like, expect to see tempo. And usually when you see that, it's not all the time, but usually when you see that, it's not with multiple tight end looks. It's usually more of your shifty, speedy guys that you're trying to get the hands of and get downfield, do it again 13 seconds later. And so I am curious to see kind of what the personnel use is in that. Now, is Notre Dame going to have to go and have multiple tight ends because that's a way to slow down the pass rush?
See, that was one of my questions. Are you going to have to keep somebody around to be able to chip or keep an eye on that left side of the line? And it takes away a weapon, but you need it to survive. And I don't know, is that a run? Is that a back instead of a tight end? I don't know. I don't know how they're going to handle that. Or if they're going to try and play it straight up. I'm just not sure how they're going to handle it. But I like that those tight ends, man. If Mitch Evans if he's truly healthy at 100% again, and Eli Raridon's healthy again, Eli Raridon's like 6'7". He's just an absolute monster. Looks like update 7-3 Colorado. Travis Hunter caught a curl, made a guy miss, and ran for a TD. It is 7-3 Colorado, the Fighting Deons.
Yeah, 7-3 in that game. I don't know. Still rooting for my Bison. You don't call them Bison for some reason in North Dakota. They're called Bison up there it's spelled with an S, but said with a Z. Still going to be rooting for them tonight. But to answer Nick's question there, going to be at the tailgate for Miami of Ohio. A 60-40 chance right now. I'm hoping to be able to make that work, but I would love to join you guys because I've heard epic things about these tailgates, and I'd love to do that before covering the game.
But the problem is somebody's got to run the damn website. And it's and then I tell you, I'm going to be drinking beer for breakfast.
Uncaptained ship is a tough one to leave out there. So
it's really tough.
If I do, probably going to not be able to stay for a whole heck of a lot of time, but would love to shake some hands and have some fun with you guys because it is hard to run the ship when there's no one running the ship.
Yeah, it's a real problem with going to games now. It's somebody's got to write these articles. Come on, they're not going to write it themselves. So man, Nick, I don't want to go back to the wide receivers, but I have another wide receiver question. I'm not talking about throughout the year. I'm talking about week 1. Can we get through that game and we look at that group and go, that's a plus unit for us in this ball game? Not neutral, not a negative like last year. You knew they were hurting the team. They had 3 healthy guys. You knew that was a negative. What are the odds we get through this game and go, man, the wide receivers were a plus unit, and that's good to see?
It's a good question. Like, I feel good about the receivers, at least in their matchup on Saturday. And I'm not as down on them, maybe because my expectation isn't like Notre Dame's going to win the national championship this year. And maybe it needs to get that way, because if you watch, again, free plug for NBC and for Peacock, but if you watch that show, there's not a soul on that roster or in that coaching room that's saying anything less than a national championship's the expectation. So if they're saying it, then we can go ahead and I guess we can play along with that and jump along with that. I don't think the receivers are at that level, but again, why can't they be better and like a good amount better than they were a year ago? They complement each other very well. Like I think that the way you look at this whole setup offensively with Notre Dame is that, all right, you have Chris Mitchell as your guy. It's going to be your go down and try to burn somebody deep. You have whoever it ends up being, probably a lot of phase on is what I expect. But that's your kind of over the middle, make guys miss type of guy. Like, I don't know. I feel good about. No, I don't think you guys are weird. I trust me. I'm weird. I'm not afraid to shy away from that. Embrace your inner weirdness, and the world will be a better place instead of people trying to hide all of it. But that's another story for another day.
That's so funny because it's so funny. It's like, man, I've been writing for you for 3 years now. It's like, dude, you're well aware of my weirdness and everything that goes with this. If it would have scared you away, it would have happened many years ago before now.
Yeah, it's weird how that kind of it attracts to one another, I think is kind of what actually happens with that. But just to kind of finish up the receiver point, the way we can have some fun with the tailgate and all of that, I just think it's so much more complimentary than it was last year. And it's also better. Like, it doesn't, we live in this world where it's like, is it great? Are there first round draft picks? Is Michael Floyd on one side and Golden Tate on the other? No. But that doesn't mean it still can't be a significant step up from what it was a year ago. Like, it can be that. It can be better. It can be improved. It can be enough to make some plays against Texas A&M and lead this team to a 12-0 regular season. But it can also have a way to go before it reaches the level of like what Oregon's going to trot out there receiver this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the other thing that's in my mind too, because this is tricky. It's a mind game. Tricky. It is. Think about this. But before the offensive line issue, all the media guys that were at practice every day, this is a real wide receiver room. It's significantly improved, all that. My fear is that it could be significantly improved, but compared to the bar that was so low the last couple of years, it could be significantly improved and still not near where I need it to be to get the job done. That's in my brain too. Is it going to be a good unit like compared to what most teams have nationally, or is it just better than what we're used to, which was having 3 healthy guys, and one of your best guys, you got to pull off the lacrosse field and put a gold helmet on and say, we need you to play football today.
I mean,
yeah.
Does that? I guess that doesn't count as the John Kennedy bingo card because you didn't say guys like me RKG, but it was close. It was close. You were leaning towards lacrosse. And picking somebody off of there. I thought we were going to cross off the bingo card RKG. I said it for you, but I thought that's where we were going for a second. But
close.
I won't cross it off my bingo card for right now, but. Yeah, that's a fair question. I know there's people in the chat saying the same thing, but you don't go from complete outhouse to the penthouse overnight. I know the transfer portal makes things different, but guess what? Like, elite wide receivers don't really show up in the transfer portal. They kind of get their job done. They play 3 years in college. They go off in the NFL. They make millions. Most of them don't ever hit the transfer portal. Most of them are recruited at the highest of levels. They go to the big-time schools. Notre Dame hasn't been able to land that yet. But here's the thing. Like Mike Denbrock shows, why with
who is the kid that Derek Meadows that just went to LSU like a month ago or so, 3 weeks ago, committed to LSU. And why did he commit to LSU? Well, because they have a better track record here in the last decade plus of sending receivers to the league than Notre Dame does. All right, we can't really argue with that. Mike Denbrock is the offensive coordinator. It was just at LSU that sent a couple guys to be high picks in the NFL draft this year. All right, there's a step in that direction. I'm not saying he's going to turn any of these guys into first-round picks. None of them are going to be first-round picks. But if you can turn them into a kind of guy that is drafted, can go play in the NFL, like it's a progression. And I know we want to be at national championship level right now at every position, but when you're looking like, you look at what Notre Dame, what that roster or what that cupboard was at the wide receiver position when Marcus Freeman took over. Like, this is what it was headed towards. And it's not a surprise of like, yep, you had to go to the portal. Yeah, the portal doesn't lend itself to having a lot of guys in it. Like, you knew this was coming. Now this can be a step towards being like, all right, this is what we were able to do with maybe lesser talent. What can we do when we get the big boys in here? The high 4 stars, the 5-star type of offensive guys that just haven't been on this offense specifically at receiver in recent years. Like, this can be a big step towards that.
Yeah. Yep. It's and you know what, man? It is going to be a better unit. It's just a matter of how much better. Like, it's going to be better. They're going to be able to have a somewhat of a healthy rotation. They have some younger guys. They have some veterans. A good blend of the transfers. Yeah, I know. I just saw that too. Yep. How about Bo Collins? Like, they're like, oh, his body's totally changed and the Clemson thing wasn't a good fit or whatever. Now he's a totally changed man. Like, all right, I'm open to it. And let me see some of that Saturday if it's true then. Let me see it.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Like, Bo Collins, really all the transfers, I am curious to see of like, how does it mix? How does it fit? It seems like what they went out and targeted was very specific, and it should complement one another very well. Now you have to go out and perform. And when I say very well, I guess I'm putting that in relative terms versus what was out of Power 5 teams. Got to be a bottom third group of receivers the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But it gets you back to respectability maybe at this position. And so that's something that I will have a key eye on that, not just this Saturday, but as the season goes on. And then hopefully the positives that it means going forward for that position with this program.
Yeah, it's, man, so I do think
jump in here. There's people in here. Oh, John's boss is in here. What? I don't care. I've heard it all. I've seen it all. You're not going to out-weird me. So just be yourselves, okay? Just be your damn selves. You're fine.
Yeah, if that was an issue, you wouldn't be.
Listen, I brought John aboard for a reason.
Yeah.
I didn't bring John aboard to be like, oh, I want to subdue him. Oh, I want to be like calm. No, I brought him to be him, not to be someone else. I didn't bring him in to be, maybe like that head coach that got a job down in the bayou and all of a sudden got a Southern accent. I brought John to be John, not to be someone else.
I appreciate the support. I really do. Yeah, it would be pointless
for you weirdos in the chat too.
It would be pointless for you to be like, John, do you want to work with me? And then be like, oh, by the way, can you change everything you've done that's gotten you where your brand is right now? Can you just not do any of that, but come work for me?
Right. Like, maybe we're a little different. Maybe we're the ones that are like the island of misfit toys. That's fine. Yeah. I don't care. Like, embrace it. I'm fine with that. Hit the like button. What is your old saying? Hit the like button. What is it? The super chats. Fill those things up. Make your phone calls. Do what you guys do. Just do what you do. I'm just a normal dude just like you.
Oh, man. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then, okay, we're talking about those wide receivers and what they're possible and what the possibilities are on the high end.
We have to have a meeting on the wall or on the air here, but Mason says he's off work. You want him to join in?
Oh, boy. If he wants to, I sent him the link. That's up to him. It's totally up to him.
Get
He's got
your
the link.
in here. Okay. All right. So hopefully he'll join us. We'll see.
He's got the link, so he could join if he wants. It says, oh boy.
Wine and cheeser.
Oh, look at this.
He's a wine and cheeser.
Man.
Welcome to puberty, Nick. You're 38 years old.
That's tough.
John,
man.
am I a wine and cheeser?
You're way too normal for that. Like you spent a lot of time in a fancy city, but you're not from there, man. You're a regular guy out from the suburbs, out my way, man. It's you're a regular dude who made it in the city, and I respect that. I respect that a lot. Nick, let me ask. We're talking about that offensive side. Are we putting too much pressure on the Notre Dame defense to carry the night in this first game because we have anxiety about the offense? Or a part of me feels like you guys are good. We know you're good. This is year 3. We expect a lot of you because we know you're capable of a lot. And this may be a game where you have to carry the load. And we think you could do that. And we respect you, what you've done, and your leader, Al Golden, enough that we think you can, take this by the horns and lead us here because we may need a big night from them. Are we expected too much from them to save the day?
I mean, what's fair? I never expect a team okay, Notre Dame goes and plays Navy, Army, Northern Illinois this year. My expectation will be you give up at most 10 points. All right. What's fair against Texas A&M? 17, 20? I don't know what that fair number is.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's Texas A&M. It's not okay, Colin Klein, Mike Denbrock had very gracious comments to say about Texas A&M's offensive coordinator they got from Kansas State. And understandably so, he's at Texas A&M for a reason, just like Denbrock's at Notre Dame for a reason, making a lot of money. But show me where these great playmakers for Texas A&M are. It's not like Mike Evans was a long damn time ago. It's not like Texas A&M's putting out. We're sitting here complaining about Notre Dame's receivers. It's not like it's not like Texas A&M's going and putting guys in the league year in and year out at that position. You got one guy that has carried that weight for the last decade. Other than that, that's a big blank empty space. So no, I don't think it is unfair to expect the defense to go in and control this game. If I think you have realistic expectations, somewhere between 17 to 20 points allowed, I think 21 is enough to win this game. So you do enough that you don't allow 21 points to Texas A&M. You do 20 or under, Notre Dame wins this game.
Yeah.
Is that too much to ask for the defense? I don't think so.
Yeah, 20 has been that line I have heard and read over and over in the run up to this game of it feels like first 1 to 20 might have a good chance to win this one. I don't know. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I just think Notre Dame's defense is going to be really good. I have heard people be like, how's A&M going to move the ball on our defense? And it's I want to believe that, but that seems like a lot to ask, but I want to believe it at the same time.
Yeah, it is seeing is believing, that whole part of it. Yes. But if we have to, maybe the defense can go and make one of those scores, really flip things up and quiet that stadium of 104, 105,000. I'd be okay with that too.
How about this?
Answer your wrong question. No, I don't think it's too much to be defense, you got to go perform at an extremely high level. When you have a top 5 defense, if you had a top 5 offense, you'd be okay, go score 45 points. If you have a top 5 defense, why can't the expectation be all right, playing Texas A&M, you best not give up more than 20 points. I think 21 wins this. I think Notre Dame is very capable of scoring 21 points in this game. Why is that? No, you have a top 5 defense. Go act like a top 5 defense.
Yeah, and man, it's just we just might need it just for this week, and then things lighten up. But if you were and then what about this? Oh, you want to find some hidden points, Nick? I'll find you some hidden points. How about this kangaroo kicker kicking a sideways Australian knuckler 57 yards down the field in the Texas sky, and it's wobbling all crooked and weird, all kangaroo style. And whoa, and then there's a fumble, and then Notre Dame's on it, and you're in there, and you're right by it, and then it's easier to score. There we go. I'm stealing points, baby.
That is outstanding. I love. What does it mean to like when you kangaroo the hell out of a kick? What does that mean? Can you translate that for me?
It means that it bounces
like
really far, like a kangaroo.
Hops around like a kangaroo. It like goes in someone's pouch like a kangaroo. Like what?
Oh yeah.
How do you kangaroo the hell out of a ball like you just said?
I don't know.
I don't know what that term means, but I like it.
He's the kangaroo kicker. He's good looking. He's large and in charge. And I need something out of this guy. I need him to be banging it down there 58 yards. Or there's a play somewhere, Nick, for that guy to keep the ball and run somebody over. There's got to be something in the books for that. And with his size, you got to have a play in there somewhere where he can run somebody over.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they do that this year. Like Notre Dame has been the last couple of years been pretty creative with what they've done with their special teams. Maybe not as much this past year as they were the year before, but also like Marty Biaggi. If we're going to talk about special teams, in his game, was it at Marshall? I want to say when he was special teams coach at Marshall, I believe it was. Could be getting my group of 5 team confused. But against Arkansas, I'll see if I can find out, throw it in the chat. But there's a punt return where you get all the creativity of it. He has a punt return where they go and they don't fair catch, but everyone acts like it's a fair catch. So everyone's just kind of standing around, watches the guy catch the punt, doesn't run, and then all of a sudden just takes off. He goes and takes it for a touchdown.
I saw that.
Maybe there's something there with some creative special teams work to
How about this, Nick?
Keep some yard position for you.
How about this? The commander sneak Buckner out on that field, wears the same number as the holder, and let him slide in there, acting like the holder, and he gets it, and he's ready to wing that baby or run or do whatever. And Tyler Buckner, he's the Notre Dame hero all over again. What a wild journey.
I know your guy Goolsby is like the president and CEO of the Tyler Buckner fan club, but
it's his guy.
Have you watched Tyler Buckner throw a football? Like, you sure that's going to work?
It's the sneaky factor that's going to do it. It's not the beauty of it.
There's the execution then too.
Yeah, it's the sneak factor. I don't know, but I'm just saying there's got to be a place somewhere for this huge punter to do something with the ball. And if you were ever going to keep it, this would be one of the games you would consider that you would think Notre Dame may actually need a play like that, because you're not going to want to reveal that. I'm just throwing it out there that I'm open to it. So Nick, we're moving down the road here. And I'm starting to think about, our predictions. We did some of that in the on the website already. And I'm also
we should promote that a little. I'll throw it in the chat, but our season predictions are out there. Our predictions for Saturday's game will be up first thing in the morning.
Yeah. And I also, aside from the predictions, I was also trying to think about like the most important players that I think need to step up in this game to get Notre Dame where they want to go. And it's a very remedial exercise. Riley Leonard is going to be such a big part of this, Nick. And I think even just the threat of what his legs can do is going to help Notre Dame's offense a ton. Just the concept that he's so mobile and big, I really think that is going to help keep A&M a little bit more honest than they would be with the more stationary guy. And him on the move is going to be a big part of this game, whether he keeps it, pitches it, throws it, whatever. Him on the move, that threat of his legs got to be a big deal, and he's got to have a good night.
No, and when you look at it, like Leonard was playing well against Florida State before he got hurt. His numbers against Notre Dame, was he 13 for 27 before getting hurt at the end of the game last year? Didn't play his best game, but he is also, that ability is also exactly what kept Duke in that game. Also, Duke's defensive line beating the hell out of Notre Dame up front. Loved, definitely had a factor in things. But yeah, Leonard's feet are going to have to come into the equation. Like, Leonard's not going to win this game or probably any big game at Notre Dame just with his passing ability. I think it's a step down from no, it's not a step down from Tyler Buckner. Sorry to be on the run over Tyler Buckner with a freight train thing tonight, but no, a step down from Sam Hartman, I think, in terms of the passing game. Step up from Drew Pine, so there's good news. But it's not going to be like, if you're counting on Riley Leonard's ability to like accurately throw downfield with regularity, if you're counting on that, then you're probably going to be in trouble in your bigger games this year. But the good news is Leonard's going to be able to do a heck of a lot more with his feet. Kind of talk about that horizontal offense that we were discussing a little bit earlier on. Do more that way, and then with that, then hopefully your ability is, all right, what he's unable to do down the field, he's able to do significantly more so than that, and make it a better offense than overall as a result.
Yeah, I just, man, this is a big moment for him, man. I mean, I'm sorry. Duke playing Notre Dame was a big moment, right? Like, that was a big moment for him. Clemson was a big moment for him too, and he had a great game there and pulled off the upset. Nothing compares to this spotlight, though. And you're Notre Dame's quarterback now, and you're going to have 106,000 people. You're on game day. Everybody's looking at you like, if you're a big-time player and you're that leader and you want to be that alpha dog and you're the only captain on offense for Notre Dame and all that, this is your moment. This is your moment. And he's got to be smart with the ball, safe with the ball. He's going to have to risk his body for first downs in a way Hartman couldn't or wouldn't. Like, this has got to be a real deal effort for him in this ball game. Northern, the next week, Northern, I don't need Riley Leonard to be keeping that ball diving for every yard. I don't need that. But in this one, I need it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Like, you treat your quarterback, especially your quarterback that's coming off of an injury, you treat him a little bit different for the bigger games. You don't want him. You want him laying out like John Elway, for those old enough to remember the Super Bowl, where he dives and does the helicopter. John Elway, you do that in the Super Bowl. You don't do that in a Week 13 divisional game when you have the division wrapped up against the Raiders. Like, you save that for the big moments. Riley Leonard, you save that when it's needed against Texas A&M. I don't need you when it's 35-7 against Northern Illinois, lowering your shoulder or diving or helicopter in for an extra 2 yards.
Yeah, it's just this is a big moment for him, man. I mean, it goes without saying, you can't be turning the ball over in this environment, and all that ball protection, all that kind of stuff is just, it's going to be critical here. And I don't know, Nick, this is just a big moment. And for Freeman, this is a big moment for Marcus. We all know that year 3 history. We all know what goes into that in Notre Dame. It's been a bumpy road for Marcus, a lot of ups and a lot of downs. Like, we've kind of seen a lot of it. Doesn't it feel to you like this is the year that it all needs to kind of come together for him? And if it's going to in a big way, it starts here. This is a lot of pressure on third year ahead man Marcus. You got to clean a lot up, don't you?
Yeah, you do, because, I mean, I think the biggest thing is you don't feel good about what Marcus Freeman's been able to do taking this little circus on the road so far. Yeah, he has the win at Duke last year. The good news is that came against Mike Elko. Bad news is Duke's a little bit different than what Texas A&M offers you. It is a huge moment for Marcus Freeman. And it's not to say there's not going to be other prove-it moments. It's not. I don't look at it as like make or break for Marcus Freeman, but it is certainly one where it's like, all right, this hasn't trended very well the first 2 years. You had losses that shouldn't have been losses, especially whatever that debacle was, forgetting to get off the bus against Clemson last year. So you need a better showing. Based off of it, I know we had the year 1 versus year 3 thing earlier. Notre Dame in this defense, the third year in this Al Golden defense. You get so scared of the big bad wolf of, what's coming, what's going to happen with this. Well, you got a big bad wolf on defense, so go and take care of that. Like, let that show itself. And I don't know. Listen, I'll be completely honest with you guys. I had myself taking Texas A&M to win this game up until this moment. And off of this conversation, off of all these things, I think there's better than a 50% chance Notre Dame walks out victorious Saturday. I have convinced myself.
Man, I love to hear it. Speaking of that, let's bring in somebody else.
Whoa,
look at Mason. No, what are you, Mason? You let us do the work for 2 hours, and then right when the show's about over, you just hop in like you belong here. Look at this. Good timing.
Oh yeah, man. Yep. The old 9 to 5 was holding me more like 9 to 8, but glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Yeah, we're glad to have you here. So Mason, we've been breaking this down every which way to Sunday. What has been in your mind? I know the way you think about Notre Dame football. That's what I want to know. When you're driving around, when you're living your life here this week, what is top of mind for you about this game? What are you focusing on?
I think it's what I touched on in the 5 reasons Notre Dame wins as my very last point. And I don't even know if we have a comment section available, but I was expecting to get heat for it. I need to see Freeman win a big game he's not supposed to. So I need to see him, John, this is similar to what you say all the time, is that it's year 3. Sure, the recruiting has been good. I don't even know if it's been as advertised, but I need to see him go out and do it. Kelly won all the games he was supposed to. He didn't win the big ones. Freeman has shown an ability to get Notre Dame more ready for the big ones, but can we win the ones we're supposed to, right? So I think this is a game Notre Dame should win. I don't think, other than the atmosphere, Notre Dame has a better team. So that's my biggest concern is it's a lot of like what you've touched on, John, is it's how I'm going to feel about Marcus Freeman after this game. If Notre Dame wins, they're on the right trajectory. It's much more likely they go 12-0. But if they lose, I feel like this is going off the rails. I don't think 11-1 is possible. I think they slip up again, and 10-2 is a stretch to make the playoff with the schedule this year. So that's my thoughts right now. I think Notre Dame wins a lot of the positional matchups and position group matchups, but I just wonder if their defensive line is going to be too much to handle. However, I also touched on that I think Riley Leonard's legs help a ton. So I jumped in right when Nick was giving his prediction, and I've been nervous about this game. But at the same time, if Notre Dame can't beat the 6th, 7th, 8th best SEC team, what are we doing here?
Dude, it's kind of where I'm at. And here's the real fear I have, you guys. You know me, I'm always worrying. I'm a Notre Dame worrier. Everybody knows that. You're having some problems in the recruiting trail. The last month and a half has not gone your way with recruiting, and there's a lot of anxiety there, and you may get more bad news with the quarterback part of that soon, whatever. If you were to lose this game and then pair that with trending the wrong way with recruiting, and it's year 3, where exactly does that leave you? That is my ultimate biggest picture, big concern from all this is, if that goes wrong and the recruiting's trending away from you, where is your foundational stability then as the program? That is what makes me really nervous. You could win your way back into that, beat Louisville, get down the road to Florida State, whatever, and have one loss. But man, then you're walking a tightrope and Marcus is feeling the heat and everything is so pressurized at that point compared to claw out any win here, and you have the inside track playoff game. Those are just such big differences, man. Big difference.
Who wants to take that worst case scenario weekend for Notre Dame article for the website?
Yeah, it won't be me.
Lose Saturday night against Texas A&M, and then get news Sunday morning that Deuce Knight committed to Auburn.
Yeah, not good. And that's where how fast things can go off the rails. And then I was watching the first 2 episodes of that Here Come the Irish show, and I was thinking, hey, if they lose week 1, this show stinks.
How much of that was we want to go undefeated, where there's no reason we can't go undefeated, going to play for a national championship, don't shy away from that. And that's like, yeah, we get to those 3rd and 4th episodes, this thing could be a lot of not fun. If this goes south, it could go real south in a hurry.
Real fast.
Yeah, so, dude, there's just so much riding on this moment. And it's like, dude, it doesn't get any easier for Freeman either, because you're looking at like, when's the off ramp to like ease into something? You don't have it this year. And I got news for you. You don't have it next year either, because yeah, you open with these guys at home, but you're giving Elko a whole year to get everything going. So there's no easy way around this. You got to win your way out and through all these situations. There's no other way. It's old school. Win your way through it.
Yeah, winning cures all problems. That's essentially how it goes, right? Like you want a solution? All right, go out and win football games. It goes back to the Derek Meadows thing. Why didn't Derek Meadows commit to Notre Dame? Why did he seem to like Notre Dame? Everyone else wanted LSU. Why? Because LSU's produced wide receivers that go on to play at the NFL. Notre Dame doesn't have that. How do you solve that problem? Develop wide receivers that go play in the NFL. Okay, you have to recruit better to get them. But if you're not going to recruit better right away and get that instantaneous success, then develop what the heck you have right here. Start to build that foundation so the path to actually get that elite receiving group is there, instead of it just being this like wish that it was under Del Alexander for so long.
Yeah, look at this. You got a fan here, Mason. Have Mason on more, please. Some young blood. What are me and Nick just, we like 90 years old in the internet world? Is that what 40 translates to? Like 90?
I'm sure, John, you and I made references earlier tonight that Mason would be like, yeah, I saw that on YouTube once. Yeah, I read about that one time that he didn't have to go through the parallel.
Give me one.
Man.
Something from earlier. Let's see. What did we talk about? We talked about the 1990s defensive backs of Bobby Howard and
John Elway. Would you remember that John Elway play?
His parents' mind yet at that point.
I was born in 2000, dude.
Good Lord. God, I knew you were young. That's young blood.
Dude, the weirdest, Mason, the weirdest.
Bring the demo down. I've turned into that guy.
The weirdest part of that is me reliving Bush Push from 05 so vividly.
Like,
that is that moment that like changed me forever and turned me into like a psycho. And it's so embedded in my brain for being like 20. And the idea that you were 5 and just like impervious to the misery of all that it's just wild to me that I'm old.
So that's my first Notre Dame memory. That along with I knew I believed in God when one of the first times I for real prayed was Notre Dame UCLA when Shark made the catch where he like just barely held himself up and scored. And we went to church right after that. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So those are my first 2 Notre Dame memories.
Yeah, that's a very mature thing to realize your relationship with God. But if it's going to be anything, it may as well be Notre Dame. That ties in good. But do you guys know how many candles I burned at that grotto saying, God, come on, man, give me this one. Just give me this one, dude.
How many times I've let out I won't do it again. I won't ask for it again. But this Saturday, I really need this. And then a week later, there I am doing the same thing.
I need it again.
Oh,
I really mean it this time. I'm not going to ask again. But today and today only. Yeah, been there.
Yep.
Oh, man. Mason, I want to give you a chance. We've been on here almost 2 hours. Nick's got to get going around 8. You just popped in. I want to give you a chance. Is there anything else that you really want to cover? We got a handful of minutes left. You popped on. I want to give you a chance to go over anything else in your mind before we wrap up and go watch some football the rest of the night.
Not a whole lot. North Dakota State just took the lead. That's cool. I feel like everything's been beat to death, really. I'm just ready to see it. So Thankfully for me, on top of the Sports Illustrated stuff on the side, or I guess on my full-time job, I'm in sales. So this is month end for me. So the week's flying by. Thank God, because besides my job, all I think about is Saturday night. So counting down the hours, counting down the minutes. I'm just ready for all the talk to be over. Let's go see it be handled on the field. So I'm done with everybody talking about the heat. It's going to be hotter in South Bend. Done with it. I'm ready for Notre Dame to go out and punch them in the mouth, shut the crowd up. Imagine going up 14-0. What would that look like? It'd be awesome.
Ooh, be quiet real quick. Like, I know you were working, Mason, but we had that conversation of like, what's a key? And it's don't have what happened in Miami where Brandon Wimbush misses the easy pitch and catch that should have been a touchdown. And instead you're getting punched in the mouth and dragged all over the field for 60 minutes. Go make that play early. Finish with points, finish with even change in field position to put Texas A&M at their own 3 to start off the game, whatever the heck that has to be, and just take the crowd out of it, even if it's little by little. Don't let them have that moment where it's like, oh, you know what word's about to come out of my mouth, and it's ruckus for 60 minutes.
I can't have a false start. I can't have a sack or a failed RPO off the rip. I can't have that.
Yeah.
I'm back and forth in a group chat earlier about what's most likely the first play, and what makes a ton of sense is like Great House on a slant and an RPO to Price or Love or something like that. If that gets blown up on the first play, it's going to be so obnoxiously loud with those cult people you keep referencing, John.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sorry, man.
I had some nice donations earlier, though, so thanks, cult people.
Yeah, they did. We did have a nice donation from a cult person, but I just call it like I see it. Nikki Dean loves to be heard and seen. It says, Mason, you're going to be at the AI tailgate. Here's the thing, you guys. I don't know who noticed it, but Nick, you were already at a tailgate with Mason. Him and his dad were at the blue and gold one. He was there. Nick, you guys were right by Mason and his dad. When Goolsby came over there, you were all there. So he already was there. We'll have to make the introduction. But Mason was there. He was drinking a Miller Lite for breakfast.
All right. Liquid John, which game are you planning on doing?
Miami, Ohio.
Okay. I'll do my best to be there.
Yeah, just, I got to do it. It can't be one of the bigger games because I'm not in the mood to entertain and host for like a bigger one. And it's a little more low key. So, but yeah, Miami, Ohio, everybody's invited. North Lot. We'll have food. We'll have drinks. It's going to be our biggest one yet. We got a lot of people traveling. I got people coming from Canada. I got people coming from Florida. We got people coming from all over. So it's going to be a really good time. Anything else from you guys? We're about to wrap up here. I love everybody jumping in tonight. We didn't know what day, what time. Appreciate people jumping in here on a weird time, but it's so exciting that football's back. You can't go wrong to having another live show. Why not?
The only thing I'll add is that I know that kind of my niche, I guess, is recruiting, right? And you want to see recruiting take off, go win a game you're not supposed to. When everyone's watching on College Game Day. Everyone in the country is watching. Go win that game, and maybe even in convincingly fashion. Deuce is going to see that while he's at Auburn. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of guys on the board still. Owusu Boateng is going to see that. Madden's going to see that. There's only a handful of guys left on the board for Notre Dame, but don't think that they're not trying to flip people either. Like, the staff loves Logan Saldate already. We didn't even know he was a name at this time last year. So little things like that where we don't know everything that the staff is doing in terms of evals. Senior tape's about to be released. So don't think that all eyes aren't going to be on Notre Dame. Mason hit all the dingers tonight. Let's go. Don't think all eyes won't be on Notre Dame Saturday night. Clemson and Georgia will already be handled. Just go win the game. Winning solves everything, including recruiting. So I'm higher on this 2025 class than most. I think that they've got some guys that are 3 stars that'll make that jump. And I know people don't want to hear about the 3 stars. Only so many guys can be 4 stars, right? But I think that there's some hidden gems and then some guys that are waiting to be flipped. So I'm illustrated for that.
Yeah,
man, let's see. This is why we bring you in to close. We give the call and we just have Mason come here and fire a bunch of darts right at the end. That's fantastic. People are digging it.
Yeah, we're the old guys. We can't pitch a complete game anymore. Mason is He's coming out of the pen for us with the great entrance music, and voila, closes it out. I like
great entrance music. I don't love your Wi-Fi though. I don't love your little pixelated. I don't like your ideas are better than your Wi-Fi tonight. I'll give you that.
It's because I'm streaming North Dakota. I've got college football pulled up. That's on me.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Nick, anything else you got? I really appreciate you guys joining in here. And again, you guys, Nick Shepkowski, Mason Plummer, these are both guys that write for the Sports Illustrated Notre Dame Fighting Irish site. We're on the team together. These are the people's faces you see writing all those wonderful articles every day, every week.
Yeah, I kind of told you. Like, I've talked myself into this thing going from a coin flip to I feel pretty good about Notre Dame's chances. There's a lot more, not a lot more, but more has to go right for Texas A&M to win than it does for Notre Dame. Even with the crowd involved, I mean, all of that. You take care of your business. You show why you're in year 3 of you're not necessarily rebuild, but kind of reforming of this program. And I think it takes care of itself. And I like Notre Dame to win this game.
You've got Freeman's guys in now. We're that enhanced recruiting. So let's make it all Freeman's team right now. Let's go.
There you go, man. I love it.
More often. Let's try to make this a regular thing throughout the year.
Yep. Man, I love this. And then, of course, everybody, a lot of you are regulars. We're still going to do the morning show tomorrow morning, normal time. Be there, your normal morning coffee routine. And then also, if I'm in the mood and we're feeling frisky, we may do a tailgate show tomorrow night late because everybody's going to be up late, wound tight, drinking and just pacing around, ready for what's coming Saturday. We may just go ahead and go live and do a tailgate special late tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that. Hit the website tomorrow. And we're going to have our predictions for the year, our predictions for the game and everything. It'll be a fun day on the website. And then we're going to have some other articles up as well. So thanks everybody for being here. Go watch football the rest of the night. College football's back. That's what I'm going to go do. Thanks to you guys for being here. Everybody for donating. The chats. We'll see you on the morning show. Have a good one.